Hey everyone, it's Byron. I'm back. Been a little while since I've been here, been on here. Excuse me. But I was in Romans, and we were looking at things in Romans that some things in the foundational teaching that I wanted to do that are focused around the people mentioned in Romans 1 verse 18. And in Romans 1 verse 18, we read, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who hold the truth in unrighteousness." And that's kind of the group of people that we're talking about there. People that hold the truth in unrighteousness. And then we were in verses 22 and 23. Well, let's just read 21, 22, and 23. Because that, when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were they thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of an uncorruptible God into the image made like to corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Excuse me. And then it goes on to say, "Wherefore God also gave them up unto uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves." Now, I don't want to get too far along here, because there's still a foundation that needs to be established in order for a person to completely grasp everything that's being written here in Romans. And I did a video earlier about the foundations, and I've forgotten the name of it right now. I may put it on the screen for you. But it talked about the foundations are rutted out, and I mentioned that in that video about an alligator, and thought it looked like it had been, the floor just was not level. Then later in that video, which was reference to a dream, I saw that a basketball court had been built on that unlevel ground, or the foundation had been leveled, and then there was a basketball court there. People were playing volleyball and stuff like that. Sometimes a person may assume that the foundation is level, but in fact maybe it's not. And part of the reason it's taken me a little while to get back is the astonishment that I came to understand is that the foundation has truly been ripped up, torn, and shredded, even among believers. Now, there's one thing that this kind of focuses on. The last video that I did, I talked about sons of God, and then daughters of men, and that was in Genesis. And we'll go back there and we'll look at some of that stuff. But the thing to understand is that there are people that say the sons of God were angels or fallen angels, and they actually married in or had, well, both actually, because the Bible does specifically state they married, but they had sex with women or daughters of men. And because of this union, then all mankind had to be destroyed except for Noah and the people that survived the flood. Noah and his 3 sons and their wives. In essence, if you subscribe to that, which I don't, but if you subscribe to that manner of thinking, in essence you're saying that God, the creator of the universe, the creator of all things on the earth, and also man, condemned man by allowing fallen angels to have intercourse with man, therefore corrupting the flesh of man, which was cause for God to destroy all mankind. There's a lot of words and stuff like that in the Bible that you have to ignore to accept that teaching. One of which, and let's just go to it real quick. Let's go and look and see how things were when God was talking to Abel. I'm just clicking on the screen here and pulling up the Bible as I look at it. But when God was talking to Abel in Genesis chapter 4, and then in verse 7, God says to Abel this. He said, "If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted. And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door." Then he goes on to say, "And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. I think that's a reference to if you do well, Abel's desire will be towards you, and you'll rule over him. But Cain saw it a different way. Cain later, you can see, or continue reading, he went out of the presence of the Lord and decided to go his own way. He had a son. His son, he named a city after his son, and began to establish what I would say was men of great renown, or people that made a way for themselves, or built their own stairway to heaven, or the Tower of Babel, because they began to make their own way. If what God said to Cain is universal here, in that if you do well, will you not be accepted? If it's universal and would apply not only just to Cain, but other people that lived on the earth, God is in essence saying, if you do well, you'll be accepted. But if you follow the sons of God or fallen angels, it would be irrelevant what a man did, because a man wouldn't be able to overcome the fact that he is the offspring of a corrupt seed. And in essence, it negates the need for a sacrifice, because there's no hope. But biblically speaking, there is hope, and that's one of the arguments that I have against this fallen angel thing. And I can just tell you that, I appreciate the argument if there were to be one that would appreciate the argument. But there's no way you're going to tell me that God, the creator of the universe, allowed that to happen. Then all the people had to be destroyed. Because God gave man free will. And he didn't give man free will just after the flood. He gave man free will from the beginning. Go back to Adam and Eve in the garden. Adam and Eve had free will. The serpent approached Eve, tempted her, and he did it in a tricky manner. So these are some of the things that I'm just saying, that sometimes when people hear the foundations aren't level, or the foundations have been destroyed, they may think in their mind, no, I'm good, my foundations are great. But if you don't understand that a person, if they do well, God stated they'll be accepted. You may subscribe to fallen angels, corrupted all flesh, and completely negate the fact that God said if you do well, you'll be accepted. I don't know how these things happen other than Satan himself gets involved with it. But I can tell you this, through prayer, seeking understanding, and just waiting on the Lord. I've waited on God to show me, Lord, you please show me what these people are saying is true. Everywhere I turn, I can find falsehood. And not only just that, but written into the text. If you go into Genesis chapter 6, where it's written into the text, sons of God, Genesis 6:2. If you look at the sons of God, right there, being Elohim, no reference to angels. None. Zero. Now, if you follow that same phrase throughout the Bible, you're going to see that there's no reference to angels through sons of God. Other texts or other places in the Bible, you will see references to angel, but not those words used. So, I can tell you that the foundations are not level, and we must be on a level foundation in order to perceive or understand things. God did not destroy the world because of fallen angels. God destroyed the world because, and let's read it right here. Let's read the words that God said. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 13, and God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Now, who would he destroy? Genesis chapter 6, verse 11. The earth was also corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked into the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh was corrupt, his ways unto the earth. So, take what God said to Cain, and take what God's saying now. God said to Cain, if you do well, you'll be accepted. Here's a lot of people that are not accepted. But given the Genesis, given the sons of God, daughters of man theory, they would never have the opportunity to follow God because they were corrupt flesh, as the saying goes. Therefore, I just, and that's not the end of the arguments, man. I can just sit there and reel them off, man. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 7, and God said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of earth, both man and beast and creepy things and the fowls of the air. For it repenteth me that I have made him. Why? Genesis chapter 6, verse 5, and God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and there was every imagination of the thoughts of his heart were only evil continually. Now, in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, you read the word giants. Many people say Nephilim. Well, every time you hear the word Nephilim used, realize Satan is trying to take you to believe that Satan corrupted the seed of man, therefore man had to be destroyed. But what we never take into consideration is, did man have free will, or did man have the opportunity to do something different? Genesis chapter 4, if you do well, you'll be accepted. It didn't say, as long as you're not of this seed of these fallen angels, and you do well, you'll be accepted. No, it's not there. It's not there. And people, you can read this a million times, the fables that man has created to cause one to understand this in the manner of fallen angels. It's just not there. Just not there. And let's look at the word giants. And I just quickly look at the word giants. It is Nephilim, and Nephilim is the key word to listen for when you're listening to people teaching falseness. When you hear the word Nephilim, you're going to know, okay, here we go. Let's see what he's going to say. All right. Now, just a quick, short definition. I'm using eSword, which is a Bible thing. Quick, short definition, Nephilim, a feller. Now, a feller, the closest example I can use as a feller is like a man fell a tree with an axe. A person who falls trees or knocks trees down or chops trees down, he is a feller. All right. Then it says that is a bully or a tyrant. So there were giants, and I'm not doubting they weren't large people, but I am doubting they were the result of the offspring of fallen angels. So there were giants or fellers or tyrants or people like that in the earth in those days. And then you run into this semicolon, the simple use of the English language. Semicolon separates two independent clauses. So there were giants in the earth in those days. Semicolon could be by itself. There were giants in those days. But then it says, and also after that, after there were giants, the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, or fellers, or tyrants, men of old, men of great renown. I can just tell you this, that we've already talked about it. Lamech, one of Cain's sons. Maybe it's a generation down. Lamech, he stood before his wives and said, I've killed a man, but if anybody tries to harm me, let wrath come on him 70 and sevenfold. A man of great renown, or great stature, and all that stuff. You're also going to see right after the flood, the same trend continues, the same trend. It's so easy, I guess, to miss if the foundation isn't level. But God did not create man to be doomed a few hundred or so years afterwards by Satan, fallen angels. God created man as man, gave him a choice. Later, God regretted that he had created man because man had become corrupt. Not because man had been infiltrated or the seed of the serpent had gotten into man because of sex with a fallen angel. So you can play spins on all the Bible, but you can't make it say what it doesn't say. And it doesn't say angels. It doesn't say giants were the result of angels. It just doesn't say that. And here's a big problem. If you walk away from the foundation and haven't gotten it level, then everything thereafter that's built will be built a little off. The same way with Jesus Christ. Now, many people think that they know Jesus because they haven't had an experience maybe in a church or something like that. Many people's relationship with Jesus Christ is in fact the relationship with their church. All this can be wrong. I mean, a relationship with Jesus Christ is a personal relationship. Interaction between two people or a spirit. But the foundation can be just terribly off. So just throw this out there, just a couple of reinforcements there. Shortly after I finished that last video, I went on a trip and felt really bad for quite a while. Started recovering and then ran into the situation where persons very close to me were not only just thinking that this was the case, but also spreading this, and that threw me back for some time. And the idea here is not to try to change someone's ideas or values. If you believe the way you believe, that is how you believe. But if someone else coming along, as a minimum, actually has the scriptures read to them and they believe what the scriptures say, as they say it, maybe it would be helpful. You can't go and read a way off track book called the Book of Enoch and then come to the Bible and try to prove the Book of Enoch by the Bible. That's not how it works. The Bible stands alone unto itself. And if the Book of Enoch just so happens to differ from how the Bible is written, then you got to question, well, where's the Book of Enoch from? And I can tell you, as written, the Book of Enoch is not written by Enoch who walked with God. He's written by somebody else, and not the one that we're talking about. So hopefully this will be a little help. We'll continue on with continuing looking at verses and stuff, but the foundations are so incredibly